Hi, this is Frank Taylor with Nature at Your Door. I'm in far southwest Virginia, roadside in early August with this amazing Joe-Pye weed. Today's episode is going to be about this native plant and what a great plant it is. And I want to tell you 5 things you should know about Joe-Pye weed. I've been following the flowers as they've started to bloom here in late fall on the roadsides, starting with Great Mullein and Chicory and Queen Anne's Lace. Check out those episodes. But today's episode is featuring this beautiful, fantastic pollinator native plant, Joe-Pye weed. Right here in your backyard. You never know what you're going to find. So the first thing I want you to know about this plant is how to identify it. What are its features? There are actually 5 species of Joe-Pye weed, and the one I believe I have here now is hollow Joe-Pye weed. All 5 species are in the genera Eutropium. Eutropium is a word that means true wheel, and it refers to the fact that these leaves come out on nodes in a whorl or a true wheel. There may be 5 to 7 leaves in a whorl, and each of the leaflets have a very toothed edge. I find these leaves almost leathery to the touch. They have a very firm texture to them, serrated edge, and they smell weakly of vanilla if you break them. 2 things, of course, that are very striking about this flower are their height. They're taller than most of our flowers around here in this meadow. And the enormous and abundance of flowers or florets. This flower head is made up of many, many individual flowers. You can see that these pink to purple flowers have paired stamens coming out of their tops. They don't all flower at once, and they don't all open at once for nectar, but they'll open over a period of time. Joe-Pye weeds are said to prefer to have wet feet, and what that means is they like to be in wet or damp soil pretty much most of their growing season. And I'm actually down here in a ditch where the ground is quite wet and a little bit muddy around my shoes. Other plants that I've observed have also been in wet areas, like these here in a local park against a very, very wet, dripping limestone cliff. And there always seems to be a puddle right at the feet of these plants that are thriving in this very wet, very moist environment. The second thing I want you to know about this plant is how did it get this interesting name, Joe-Pye weed. Many legends surround the origin of the name of this plant, and the most popular refers to one of a medicine man that reputedly saved an entire colony of settlers from dying of typhus by using teas from this plant for a sweat-inducing, fever-relieving, curative treatment. It's a heartwarming story, but historical facts don't seem to back it up. What is backed up is this story. Research suggests that the name Joe-Pye weed was most likely attributed to a well-respected Mohican chief by the name of Joseph Chaquetquiet, and he lived in Stockbridge, Massachusetts. And Joe-Pye was the name of this Mohican man that he used for the purpose of communication and doing business among the European settlers. It was customary at the time by these First Nations people to take on these Christian or English surnames in order to be able to interact with people in the colony. He was really, really well respected and was involved in a lot of communications and work with English and European settlers. It was not known if he advocated or promoted the use of this plant for medicinal use, or if he was observed handling it or prescribing it to people in the area that he lived, or maybe he was just observed using it. And nonetheless, the name Joe-Pye weed became adopted as the name of this flower. The third thing you should know about Joe-Pye weed is its many medicinal and ethnobotanical uses, mostly in the past, but may possibly be used by herbalists still today. As with many of our native plants, Joe-Pye weed was used for many medicinal reasons by the Native Americans, the indigenous peoples that inhabited this land before the introduction of European white settlers. Teas made from this plant were used to treat kidney and urinary problems. It was used as a diuretic and to treat kidney stones. It may have been best known to be used to treat fevers, especially typhus, because of its sweat-inducing qualities believed to help cure the fever. Apparently, sweating out a fever was a popular remedy. Like many plants, Joe-Pye weeds contain pharmaceutically active organic compounds that evolved essentially as toxins to prevent herbivory, to discourage grazing animals from eating them. Specifically, in Joe-Pye weed, there are alkaloids called pyrrolizidine alkaloids that can cause liver damage, birth defects, and are even linked to cancer. So here's my big disclaimer. Anybody that uses native plants, teas, and concoctions, or eat them should consult with a specialized herbalist and should consult with your doctor to be sure they're safe to use. A lot of these things are not tested, and their medicinal value and their safety is not well known. The fourth thing you need to know about this plant is its amazing ecological value. It's a fantastic native plant that has been here for thousands and thousands of years and evolved with all the other animals and insects around it. And it is so important as a host plant to many species. There's at least 40 different species of insects that feed on the leaves of this plant. And the flowers produce an abundance of nectar. They have a wonderful odor to them. They attract butterflies and moths from far and wide, to say nothing of the bees. These plants are covered with bees 24 hours a day. And in the first few moments that I was here, I saw a black swallowtail butterfly nectaring here. I saw a tiger swallow butterfly nectaring, and I saw a spotted skipper just in a short period of time. And just before I left, this great spangled fritillary showed up. What a fantastic sight to see. Monarch butterflies, of course, will use this plant as well. It's just a fantastic plant in terms of its ecological value and how it evolved here in thousands of years with other native plants of the Americas. The tallness is probably linked to the fact that it was a prairie plant. And in the prairies, you had tall grasses and other tall plants. So it competed with these tall plants by outcompeting them for height and reaching the sun and getting their flowers out to be pollinated. So ecologically, this plant was part of our native prairies and our grasses, and now is mixed in here with goldenrods, knapweeds, great mullein, Queen Anne's lace, chicory. Some of these plants are native, some are non-native, but now they make up this meadow community that's pretty standard here in this area in this part of Southwest Virginia. The fifth thing I want you to know about this plant is it makes a great native planting for your garden. Yes, it's tall, and I'll tell you, one of the disadvantages is the fact that you need to kind of support it. If you don't support it, it will fall over standing all its own. It's just under the sheer weight of the blossoms it produces, as this plant here had fallen down in a local park and was laying against the ground. So if you plant it at home as a part of a garden, you want to have it in the back because it's very tall. You want to have some support around it, other tall plants, or simply, tie it up to keep it like that. I can't say enough about people looking to plant native plants in their gardens. We have so many invasive plants, so many non-native plants growing all around, but in your garden you can control that, and it's a huge help to our native wildlife. And one of the last things I need to talk about, which I forgot to say earlier, is that these stems are hollow, and this is an important feature for many bees. You may have gone to garden supply centers or seen at nature museums packets of hollow tubes, sometimes cardboard, sometimes wood, sometimes bamboo, tied into a box, and it's a bee habitat because many of our native bees that are so important for our native plants in terms of pollination live and create their homes and raise their young in these small tubes. So this, particularly this species, the hollow-stemmed Joe-Pye weed, has these hollow stems which makes a natural home for these bees. So it's fantastic nectar producer for hummingbirds, for butterflies, for monarch butterflies. It can create homes after it dies back for many, many different bee species. It's a really great plant, and as well for its fall flowers and these giant, beautiful purple flowers. I can't say enough about Joe-Pye weed and recommend that you plant it in your garden. It can be grown from cuttings, it can be grown from seed, it can be grown from division. They spread under the ground by rhizomes, so a single plant will create kind of a bundle of stems that will continue to grow over the years. Well, thanks for watching this episode of Nature at Your Door. I hope you learned something new about Joe-Pye weed, one of my favorite native plants that come up at this time of the year along roadsides and in meadows and hopefully in people's gardens. Remember, if you like what I do on this channel, please subscribe, give me a like, and leave me a comment. I really love hearing from my viewers. And remember, I cover all things nature, from frogs, toads, snakes, and turtles, the myriapoda, insects, trees, wildflowers, and fungi. I cover all the things you might encounter just outside your door. So thanks again for watching this episode of Nature at Your Door.